It's My Nerd World and Depeche Mode, the podcast. On the show this week, we have official details and the release date for Strange and Strange 2, coming to Blu-ray and DVD. Finally, setlist changes as the Memento Mori tour continues this North American leg. The making of Enjoy the Silence, in the words of producer Flood, and your listener feedback.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
Welcome to it, Depeche Mode, the podcast. I'm your host, Jon Justice, and thank you so much for checking out another episode. As always, you can find out everything about My Nerd World at mynerdworld.net. Follow me on social media as well, at Jon, Jon Justice on X, at the My Nerd World on X. Instagram is the same as well, at the Jon Justice on TikTok. You can follow me there as well, and always email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. All right, let's go ahead and get to what was first the big news of the week, and it came as a shock as Depeche Mode was in New York with some major setlist changes. So, apart from the solo numbers by Martin Gore and the addition of my favorite Stranger over Speak to Me on this most recent tour, the most significant changes took place earlier this week, with Policy of Truth coming over Sister of Night, replacing Sister of Night in the first half of the playlist, and Black Celebration in the latter half of the playlist in for Wrong. Now, what's interesting about Black Celebration is when it debuted a few nights ago, Dave Gahan at the end of the song said something to the effect of, "That's for you, Alan." And the speculation around that seems to be focused on this something that I hadn't heard of before, this alleged unreleased mix by Alan Wilder of Black Celebration. There was also a little bit of controversy around the instrumentation in the song. So I haven't been able to find yet the live version of Black Celebration from last night. So they did it earlier in the week, and then the following show, they went back to the normal playlist. And then again last night, they reverted back to this new playlist with Policy of Truth in for Sister of Night and Black Celebration in for Wrong. The first night they did Black Celebration, the sequencing in the beginning of the song was pretty different and almost seemed a little wonky. Like, it kind of threw me off hearing it for the first time. And if you watch the videos shot by the fans in the crowd online, you can almost see that Dave Gahan seems a little thrown off by it as well. Like, at one point, he walks up close to the microphone and then kind of backs away until the official melodic part rolls in right before Dave starts his vocals as the instrumentation begins to slow down. The drum pattern's a little bit different, more sparse than what we've seen on previous Black Celebration appearances on previous tours. Somebody had posted online that perhaps they got the sequencing wrong at the beginning of when it debuted earlier this week, and that's why it sounded wonky and Dave looked a little bit confused. Confirmation would be with how it sounded last night and if it is different at all from when it debuted earlier in the week. So I'll let you know next week with regard to whether or not that wasn't actually a sequencing problem at all. It just happened to be the way the instrumentation was for this particular mix. And it wasn't bad by any stretch. I actually went and watched that original video a few times, and once I kind of got used to what I was hearing, I quite enjoyed it, as did most everybody else that I saw commenting online about it. However, I did see one post saying that they felt the sequencing was off and that Dave was even confused by it as well. So we'll see. Either way, some pretty welcome changes. I don't really care either way personally, simply because I haven't seen the show yet. So if you're asking me if you are interested, do I want Policy of Truth over Sister of Night? No, I probably would rather have Sister of Night, since I haven't seen the show yet, over Policy of Truth. With Black Celebration and Wrong, probably Black Celebration over Wrong. I just don't feel like Wrong works that well live. It certainly sounds better from what I've watched of the performances online, especially the Primavera Sound concert. Although I don't think they played it on Primavera Sound, did they? So maybe I was watching on a different one. Either way, it sounds better on this tour than it did when it originally debuted, and probably most specifically on the Barcelona Blu-ray release for the concert. And I think I've mentioned this before, but Dave just sounds entirely too nasally with his vocal performance on that particular release. It's actually one that I go back to the least often, which is a bummer because it's one of the ones that has the best quality in terms of the Blu-ray and the way that it's shot. It's fairly straightforward. I just don't like Dave's vocals during that particular performance. But again, I think Wrong is being done better on the Memento Mori tour. But Black Celebration is just always a fantastic song live. So whether or not we get more changes remains to be seen. I think that this is encouraging, especially for when the band heads back overseas next year with a handful of tracks that we know they have rehearsed. And I guess most specifically, I'm thinking of Before We Drown, which is one that I would love to hear live. But I'd love to know your thoughts, especially for those of you that are going to multiple shows, of how welcome of a change is this for you? With Policy of Truth and Black Celebration making it into the mix. Drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. All right, let's move on to one of the big news items this week. So as I rumored on an episode, I guess about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago now, expectations of a physical release, potentially a box set, but a physical release for A Strange and Strange 2, based off of an interview with Anton Corbijn from an outlet that I cannot remember at this point in time. He mentioned in passing that he was doing remastering for Strange 2, and the rumor that I had heard was that both of these would be coming out together, potentially in a box set. It turns out that we're getting them on a solo release with both Strange and Strange 2 packaged together and not on a larger Memento Mori box set. And given how far into the year we are, I'm doubting we're going to get a Memento Mori box set. I still expect that we will get the 4 unreleased Memento Mori tracks by the end of the year, but that'll probably be attached to something on a digital release and not a physical release, whether it's further remixes, much in the same way that we've received the remixes so far of some of the tracks on the album, whether it's a remix, potentially compilation of what we've received so far. I'd still expect to get those 4 unreleased, fully produced Memento Mori tracks. But the great news is, either way, we are getting the music video collection, Strange and Strange 2, on DVD and Blu-ray, available in these formats for the very first time. I grabbed an article from consequence.net for the details, and they actually... these releases have quite a bit of material attached to them, which has me excited, as I'm a fan of both of these, and I haven't watched them in, quite honestly now, probably decades. Depeche Mode are releasing Strange and Strange 2, a collection of music videos directed by Anton Corbijn on DVD and Blu-ray for the very first time on December 8th via Sony Music Entertainment. They are available for pre-order right now. 1988's Strange and 1990's Strange 2 were both previously only available in now out-of-print VHS and Laserdisc formats. Both were originally directed and filmed in Super 8 by Corbijn and have now been restored from the original sources for the DVD and Blu-ray release. And that probably had me the most excited. Anton shoots in a very specific artistic way. So in terms of quality, getting a Blu-ray and DVD release from the original Super 8 sources means the quality is going to be as best as you're going to get for the format in which Anton originally went and filmed it. A lot of times, if you go back and watch like older movie DVDs, they're lifted from the original film stock. And I'll actually argue that a lot of those, even though they still have the artifacts of the film on them, those DVD releases look way better than the scanned versions that you get of the same sort of quality, right? Not your 1080p, but your 720, 740p. A lot of times those scans are really, really digitalized and pixelated, whereas that they're lifted from the original movie source, they come off a lot cleaner, even though they have the remaining artifacts. But for Anton Corbijn's work, that just adds to the creativity and the artistry, in my opinion. Corbijn himself was involved in the tape restoration process, which took place over several years, with the participation of other folks involved with the original films as well. Filmed mostly in black and white, Strange features videos for the 3 main singles for Music for the Masses, A Question of Time, from Black Celebration, alongside Pimph, the instrumental closing track from the former album. In contrast, Strange 2 was shot in color. It includes the visual treatment for 6 songs from Violator. What I saw, there's a promo that's out right now, posted on the official social media channels. And it's interesting because on the cover art, and I don't know if this will be on the final cover art, but on Strange 2, the blank movie theater billboard that's just white, it says a Depeche film in color, and on Strange it says Depeche Mode film in black and white. And I'm just always interested when they go and they add subtle things to the covers as they looked before, because that's obviously different than what was put out on the original release, this sort of distinct in black and white in color. I just thought that was noteworthy. The new Strange and Strange 2 collection comes with a 16-page booklet with liner notes penned by Corbijn, who wrote, "The idea to make this into a connected series of little films and fake interviews came late into the process of shooting these. I was shooting all the films myself on black and white Super 8 film. We put all this together on a shoestring budget. Those were the days. We had to look at these films in light of us being young. We were experimenting, and I am happy that we were given that space at the time by Daniel Miller. Also included are 6 previously unreleased outtake vignettes from the Depeche Mode archives, which served as additional content not seen in the original videos." And that, to me, also just has me really excited to get new behind-the-scenes footage from this particular era. It's special, because that era and that time when those came out were special. I've talked before, and probably most recently when I was sharing the rumors about this particular release that I'm now talking about, how, Anton's vision and his artistry for Depeche Mode really expanded sort of my way of experiencing and taking in art and the subjectivity of it. I was probably a lot more closed-minded at the time, being so young and not really being into art. I was into the music, but I was so into Depeche Mode and everything that they were doing. There was this natural desire to keep an open mind. Well, if the band likes this, and this is a part of what the band is doing beyond the music that I love so much, then let me not be so negative up front, where I may have thought of it as being boring if it was presented in the format of another band, right? I wanted to keep my mind open, and because of that, I ended up really loving the source material, even though Anton Corbijn stuff isn't exactly... to say Anton Corbijn stuff isn't mainstream is an understatement. And there's been arguments made on the Behind the Music documentary for Depeche. Richard Blade, the DJ, had argued that he felt the band could have experienced a lot more popularity had they done better music videos at a time when MTV used to play music videos. I disagree with that. I think that the band potentially could have reached another, level in terms of an audience of their music, but having Anton be the creative guiding force for the band added to the mystique, and it, for me, really cemented their popularity with the hardcore fan base that still listens to shows, like this. I don't think that fan base they could have reached would have stuck with the band as long as so many people did, because they took risks and did something more artistic. It added value to what they were doing, in my opinion. Anton Corbijn's photography and art direction have played an indispensable part in the evolution of Depeche Mode's aesthetic, said Depeche Mode in a statement. Strange and Strange Too are essential titles in both the Depeche Mode and Anton Corbijn catalogs, and they are the perfect example of Anton's unique ability to capture the spirit of DM on film. Depeche Mode are currently wrapping up the latest North American leg of their Memento Mori tour. In early 2024, they'll head back to Europe for another extensive trek through the continent. Before I started the show today, I was toying with the idea of actually making this the title of the show this week, but we really are going through a Depeche Mode-essence, a renaissance for Depeche Mode. We're getting new music, we've got this new tour, but this release here, and even though we're in a much different world in terms of how the content and the creative process is presented to us through Instagram posts and stories, and a lack of physical releases, but more digital releases, and the choice of artists who are remixing these tracks is obviously an attempt to reach a younger audience. This is music that I'm not necessarily into, but from everybody that I've heard, these remixes are what a lot of people are listening to in the clubs. So it's clear the band understands that they need to and are capitalizing on this very moment right now of this Depeche Mode renaissance or Depeche Mode-essence. I was going with Depeche-essence, and I didn't like that nearly as much. Depeche Mode-essence. It might beat the last time I ever say it on the show because it really is just simply kind of silly. So the track list for Strange and Strange Too. So on Strange, you get A Question of Time, Strange Love, Never Let Me Down, Behind the Wheel, and Pimp. By the way, is that how you pronounce it? I don't mean is that how you pronounce it? I just mean, is that how you pronounce it? That's how I've always pronounced it. I don't think I've ever heard anybody go and spell it out. I've always just said pimp. Or you just silent F, pimp. I don't know. Outtake vignettes, Strange Love, Behind the Wheel, and Behind the Wheel, the Shep Pettibone mix. Strange 2, Personal Jesus, Policy of Truth, Enjoy the Silence, Clean, Halo, and World in My Eyes. I'm excited for both of these, and definitely excited to get Strange, but I'm really excited for Strange 2. Because I know that I will probably be doing multiple rewatches on Strange 2 over Strange. Just the inclusion of, look, all those videos are fantastic. And I adore the video for The World in My Eyes, and I think mostly because it's the only sort of official live thing that we have for the World Violation Tour. So the outtake vignettes for Strange 2 are Personal Jesus Acoustic, Policy of Truth, and Policy of Truth, the Trans-Central Mix. So, again, out on December 8th. You can pre-order it now. I think I'm going to do that as soon as I wrap up the show today. But how excited are you to be able to get these? I know that I am. I was kind of hoping for a larger release with Memento Mori to include those tracks that I mentioned. But apart from that, because I'd love to get a behind-the-scenes making of for Memento Mori, and we may still. I'm a little less optimistic getting this announcement so close to the holidays and it coming out December 8th. So if they are planning on putting something else out by the end of the year, I would think that would have to be announced pretty soon. So considering they've announced this and it comes out in early December, I think this may be it in terms of physical releases beyond the 12-inch remixes that we've talked about on the show and the potential to get digitally released those 4 fully produced tracks. But what do you think? How excited are you? Drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. I would love to hear your thoughts. I got to thank Museo Depeche Mode, which took their name on X from Strange, for posting this clip. I had never seen this before. I don't know the context of when this was filmed. It seems fairly recent. But it's Flood at, some event where he's talking about music that he's produced. And specifically, here's 2 minutes of Flood talking about the making of Enjoy the Silence. Now, we've heard versions of this particular story a few times, especially on the remastered documentary. But hearing Flood sort of tell this version of the story, I just got a kick out of it and wanted to share it with you. It's a little hard to hear at the beginning, but the Enjoy the Silence track in the background stops about midway, about a quarter way through, and you can hear Flood give his description about making the album and Martin's resistance to it more clearly.
This is sounding pretty good, but Martin, no, not interested at all. So we said, well, okay, Martin, we do need a melody, like sort of a strong theme. So he's going, wow, yeah, right. So he comes out, and on the worst sounding synthesizer with the worst sound ever, he played. We go, brilliant, brilliant. Really? Yes. But not on that sound. Do it. Let's try a guitar. No, I don't want to play guitar anymore. There's far too much guitar on this record already. Just try. Just trust me, Martin. Just trust me. So he sat there and, well, I don't want a normal guitar sound. Well, look, you've got this new effects thing. Let's put it through that. Yes, get me a good sound. And he's just so not into it. But he sits there and he plays that riff. Just 2 takes, straight off. And, it's not the most earth-shattering guitar sound, but at that moment and that time, just putting it through one processor, I think it was a bit of flangeal chorus, made him feel comfortable, and he just played it. And then he left. He went back to his bedroom. I don't like it at all. Okay, Martin, just give us one more day. That's all I'm asking. And then if you really, really, really don't like it, and everybody else thinks it's a waste of time, then fine. We'll do it your way. Okay.
It must have been so difficult for Martin to deal with that. And that's why I'm so, well, one of the reasons why, but we've heard about the difficulties in the recording of Spirit, and I'm dying to get the backstory on that album just because it is one of the least well-received albums, and I'd love to hear the whole process and how it played out and how much of the difficulties in recording that album perhaps affected the outcome. Whereas you look at what's been documented for Songs of Faith and Devotion, and all of the band members, including, former band member Alan Wilder, will be the first to admit that it was one of the most difficult recording processes at the time leading up to that release that they'd ever had, but it was also some of their best work. And I just know personally, I'll just relating to Martin, as somebody that produces a show every day and has to work with other people, and people have other ideas and things I don't want to do, it's difficult when you're wrong about things, when you have a certain idea of how you want things to be, and then you hear from a number of other individuals of an idea or something that you have been against or shot down, and the majority of people actually think it's really good. So I just imagine that it must have been very difficult for Martin to be that frustrated and not wanting them to do it, and then to have the song be that successful. Because while you're still happy that it's a success, because I've been through this before, there still is that little part of you going, that's not what I really wanted, though, and I was wrong. Because nobody likes to go and admit when they're wrong, right? But let's be honest, thank goodness that Martin was wrong, because Enjoy the Silence is just one of the most classic Depeche Mode songs ever. Speaking of which, all right, let's get to your listener feedback this week. I did ask on last week's show expectations for going to see them live. How is this tour compared to other tours? And I got a handful of responses from you, and I appreciate that. Again, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Friend of the show, Jeff, writes, interesting thing for me about Depeche Mode is what I remember most about their early shows is what happened before they even came on the stage into the first song or two. When I was 17 or so, I saw the Black Celebration tour. The crowd was on their feet, screaming nonstop for an hour before DM was even on stage. I was seeing concerts twice a week at that age. Everyone from Bowie to U2, The Police, you name the band, I saw them. No crowd ever got as intense as a DM crowd, not even close. I wasn't into Depeche when I went to see that show, but left as a lifelong fan because of the crowd energy and how it took me in. I'm going to stop here really quick, and I may have told this story before on the show, and if I did, I apologize, but I'm reminded of it again. So I had a buddy of mine. I was living in Southern California in my, on the second floor of my little tiny apartment that was a good bit of distance away from Disneyland, but the balcony was angled at such a perfect spot where I actually see the fireworks going off every night. It was fantastic. So I had my my buddy over. We had gone through the Academy of Radio Broadcasting together, and he was completely unfamiliar with Depeche Mode. And I'm pretty sure I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. He was more of a classic rock kind of guy. And from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and he loved the Doors. I've been trying to get him into Depeche Mode, and had been slowly sort of getting there. I ended up taking him to the show at the Shrine Auditorium, the one of the two tiny little kickoff shows they did for Ultra, the one in Europe and then the one in that I won through K-Rock Radio. And I had a tiny 12-inch TV at home. Maybe it was 18. It was small by comparison. I had devotional on VHS. So we got some sandwiches from the sandwich shop across the street next to the Humdinger restaurant that was also across the street from my apartment complex. Partook in some herb, we'll put it that way, and I threw devotional on for him. And I'll never forget, he was just, I am happy as can be. I'm flying high, right? Fantastic. Just enjoying it as I always did. He's silent throughout the entire concert. And I thought he hated it. And I was like, well, we're into it. We might as well go ahead and finish it. I just thought he hated it. And when it was over, he was just stunned. He was gushing. He's like, I've never seen a stage presence like Dave since, Jim Morrison and the Doors, and I ended up converting him and making him a massive Depeche Mode fan. So I thought that that was awesome. I was definitely proud of myself. All right, let's get back to Jeff. It may have been carefully choreographed or just accidentally worked intensely, but them opening the show with Christmas Island, but not turning the lights off until halfway into the song, then that morphing into only the rhythm of Stripped as the band took the stage, which then turned into the opening of Black Celebration with the curtain still down for 1/4 of the song. And at a perfect point where the kabuki curtain dropped and revealed the band, which to that point were hugely foggy silhouettes only. So between the crowd roars and the dancing before they took the stage that never stopped even after the show to the opening, it was that start of the show that I loved most. The current Memento Mori opening is good, but the curtain drop only to reveal the M and them walking on stage without any special build, and the short instrumental didn't grab me as much as some past tours, but this isn't the first simple opening. Another thing is the sound and volume. All of the shows I saw at Madison Square Garden was only one with the bass low enough to feel, which was great, not to mention, while it is an arena, it also is an amazing concert hall, too, built with state-of-the-art acoustics. Sadly, I'll miss next week's Madison Square Garden show. Hopefully I can make it to December in Vegas. A final note on this tour. I loved all the shows so far, all great, but for some reason, when Martin started singing the acoustic Strangelove in Berlin, I got tears, lots of them, the whole song. Don't know why it hit me so strongly, but for me, that was the most intense moment of the entire tour so far. Man, I'll be honest. I'm so happy for fans like Jeff, friend of the show, Rob Rome, who hopefully I'm going to have on next week. We're going to try to do it this week, and timing just didn't work out because I wasn't sure when I was going to have time to record the show this week. So hopefully he'll be on next week to talk Depeche. But I'm jealous, but I'm also thrilled for individuals who've been able to go to so many shows, because if I had the ability... And I'm so grateful to be able to go in November. But if I had the ability, I would be taking in just as many shows as you other fans. So hat tip to you guys for maintaining your fandom. All right, Chad writes in, I took my family to the tour last night in D.C., and it was incredible. We were all dressed in black, and even the 20-year-old was amped. The crowd energy was high, and I loved the lighting in Giant M. Not my favorite set list, but was a really good mix. Sister of Night seemed the only one that brought down the crowd a little. For me, I was glad to see my favorite stranger in place of Speak to Me. I love how each tour DM switches up the arrangements. This time, Just Can't Get Enough had an amazing heavy synth in the outro that was awesome. And I always love Christian's heavy drumming. Such a great time. Can't wait to hear your review. Also, a happy camper with the My Favorite Stranger remixes. My favorite fan of the show, Chad. Yeah, I've got to revisit. I've heard people have been really enjoying the My Favorite Stranger remixes, and I did a couple of listens, and nothing really grabbed me. But I've heard so many other fans like you, Chad, who have really been enjoying them. I think I need to give them another proper listen. Part of the problem is I do a lot of podcast listening in the car, just to get caught up on, world events, which I don't know if you've been paying attention. There's been quite a lot going on as of late. I'm happy to sit here and talk Depeche Mode for a while to get away from all the other garbage. Be that as it may, typically I listen to music most often when I go on my bike rides. Unfortunately, I live here in Minnesota, and weather has not been permitting as of late as we are entering into that time of year, which here in Minnesota means that's most of the time of the year. So I will give those another listen at some point. All right, 88 Strange 88 writes, nothing will stop our memories of our youth. From the Music for the Masses tour, 101 Violator tour, and seeing all 5 nights of the Devotional tour at the Forum in LA, I still enjoy seeing DM in concert, but it's not the same. I'm taking my kids for the first time this December, so I do have new excitement for the first time in a long time. I thought I was reading something that I wrote myself. Music for the Masses tour, 101 Violator, and all 5 nights at the Forum in LA. I did that. So, but I'm not 88 Strange 88, so, and maybe we might have gone down this path before, but we were apparently at all the same shows. You, me, and Rob Rome. That's how that works. Thank you, though, for the comment. I appreciate it. Jim Shmush? If I said your name wrong, I apologize. It's probably like Shmoo or something. SCHMUS. I'm horrible with pronunciations. Right. Going to see them Monday night in D.C. So you have. Hoping for a great show. I heard it was. But nothing will equal when my wife, girlfriend at the time, and I went to see the Devotional Exotic Tour in 93 and 94. Yeah, it's interesting because both of those periods of time for me were special. World Violation Tour and the Devotional Tour. If I had a chance to live it all again, with all the experiences and the group of friends that I had at the time, that's really hard. I'd probably go with World Violation, with Devotional being a close second. Although I may have to put on top of those the Exciter Tour, because that was the tour right around when my wife and I got married, before we had our kids, and we went to several shows together, and that was probably the most Depeche that she had been into. Although, and I don't think I mentioned this on last week's show, so if I repeat these stories, you got to forgive me. I cover so much stuff that I often can't keep track of when I've told particular stories or not. But that being said, Melinda, my wife, she listens to music all the time. Our 21-year-old Logan, who's going through flight school, so he's living at home while he works on becoming a commercial airline pilot after already getting his pilot license. So, yeah, how's bragging camp going? Hey, man, I'm just proud that he's got a direction. Now I'm just working on my 16-year-old. He had bought her a really nice Sony Bluetooth speaker, and she loves music of all genres, and she typically goes through cycles. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened. I was not complaining, but suddenly for like a week, she got on a Depeche Mode kick, and I did not want to say anything because she typically listens to it really loud, and our house is, sort of multiple levels, and so I'm typically like on the middle level, either doing my work or playing games or watching a movie or something like that. And the upper level and the second to upper level is where the kitchen and the main living room is, and then there's the top. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I can usually hear wherever she is in the house. I can hear what she's listening to at the time. And she went on this Depeche Mode kick lately. And it's all she was listening to. Like, she went in and made a whole playlist of, like, all the... As a matter of fact, she came down... I know I haven't told this story. It was Saturday afternoon. She came in, and she's, like, humming a track. And she's like... let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it. Maybe you can guess what it is. I'll try to mimic what she did. I landed on the song, but it took me a little bit of while. I'm actually giving you more clues than she did. And I was like, all right, so what era was this? And she's trying to figure out like which album era it was from. And then now I'm into it. She's like, you don't have to figure it out now. I said, there's no way I'm not going to try to figure it out now. There's a Depeche Mode song she's like, it came up when I was listening, but I blew past it, and I haven't been able to go back and find it. So, it ended up being Surrender. So it was a good thing that I looked as long as I did, because I kept going through track listings, and I was playing songs off of albums, and none of them were landing. And I went farther back in the catalog that she would not have been familiar with. And I know, based off of what she was listening to, that she was not listening to any of those tracks. And so finally, when I went, hold on. I said, is it this? And I played Surrender. She's like, yes, that's it. And this is why we're married. But I was very happy about the whole ordeal. So, hey, at least I saved that little story for the end of the show, other than boring you with it earlier in the show. Because if you hadn't figured out yet, I'm done with all the content. Thank you for the for the email there. So if you've been waiting for me to read more email, I apologize. I guess I should have told you that I was all done reading email. Hey, that wraps up the show this week. Started off rocky, but I ended strong. Listen, if this is one of your first times checking the show out and you enjoyed it and you want to support my nerd world and you happen to read and like science fiction, I know, that's a really weird combo. I've written a science fiction series. It's called EMBARK. There are 7 books in all in the series, available in Kindle Unlimited if you're on Amazon and use Kindle Unlimited. Ebook, audiobook, narrated by me. Not great, but I do narrate the books myself. Hardcover and paperback. You can actually purchase hardcover and paperback versions from me directly, cheaper than what you can buy online, and I'll autograph them too. So if you're interested in any books in my series, email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. If you love Depeche Mode and sci-fi, you can treat yourself, a friend, or a family member to a world set in the future where air and space flight culture has replaced car culture. Inspired in part by Depeche Mode, life in the so-called space age, the world we live in, and life in general, Depeche Mode does play a large part in the underlying themes of the story, and the main character himself, largely based on me, is a massive Depeche Mode fan at a time in the future when music between the 80s and 2000s is nostalgic and popular among the characters of the story. They also feature references to Depeche Mode, both direct and indirect, while telling an exciting science fiction adventure saga. Book 1 is described as follows. Taft-Guardia picked the right day to upgrade his beloved ship when fellow pilot Keith Amaro, who he has a thing for, arrived needing his help investigating a cryptic message from her late aerospace engineer father. After he agrees to help, they embark on their quest, unaware that an industrial accident inside a D-Corp military and civilian spacecraft factory has set off a catastrophic chain of events. As the ruthless leader of D-Corp attempts to exploit the disaster and gain control, Taft and Keitha discover what may be the only hope of saving Earth's evacuees. With everything that he holds dear at risk, can Taft stop the forces of D-Corp before it's too late? If you like science fiction and you like it epic with some romance and action, EMBARK is perfect for you. It is written for adults, but great for ages 11 plus. Pick it up today. Amazon.com, mynerdworld.net, or if you want a paperback or hardcover, email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. That wraps up the show this week. We will be back again next week. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, and you are safe. Bye.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Gahan from Depeche Mode.